All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're talking about a really pivotal moment in the world of finance, the era of stock tokenization. Now, what does that mean? In simple terms, it's all about turning traditional stocks into digital tokens on a blockchain. And this whole thing really kicked into high gear back in late 2025.
To get a sense of just how big this is, let's start with a number. $10 trillion. That's the predicted size of the market for tokenized stocks by 2030. So yeah, we're not talking about some small niche corner of the market. This is a fundamental rewiring of how money and capital works.
And believe it or not, this isn't some sci-fi future we're talking about. These changes are happening right now. We are right at that critical turning point, and it was a handful of key events in late 2025 that really got the whole machine rolling.
So, what kicked it all off? What was the big catalyst? Well, it really boils down to a single regulatory decision that basically unlocked the floodgates for the entire U.S. financial system.
To really get the impact here, you have to know about this organization, the DTCC. It's probably not a name you hear every day, but it is the invisible engine at the very heart of Wall Street. It handles the clearing and settlement for pretty much all U.S. stock and bond trades.
And this really puts the scale into perspective. I mean, look at this. The DTCC holds over $50 trillion in securities. It processes every single trade from the big exchanges like Nasdaq and the NYSE. It is, and this is no exaggeration, the foundational plumbing of the entire system.
And it's kind of crazy how quickly this all happened in late 2025. In October, the SEC says tokenization is a top priority. Then in November, they officially confirm, yep, securities can be tokenized. A few weeks later, the chairman himself says this will reshape markets. And then, boom, December 11th, the SEC gives the DTCC the official green light. The momentum was just unstoppable. And the consequence of that one decision is just huge. This wasn't some little startup experimenting on the fringes. This was the central nervous system of American finance, getting a blockchain upgrade. Once the DTCC was on board, the era of tokenization had officially begun. For, well, everyone.
Okay, so the floodgates are open. What happens next? How did Wall Street's biggest players react? Well, they didn't just sit back and watch, that's for sure. The titans of traditional finance moved in, and they moved in fast.
We're going to zoom in on two of the real giants here. BlackRock, the biggest asset manager on the planet, and Nasdaq, one of the most iconic stock exchanges in the world. Both of them saw this shift not as a threat, but as a massive opportunity.
You have to hear how BlackRock put it just a few days before that big DTCC approval. They compared what's happening now to the dawn of the commercial internet back in 1996. I mean, think about that. They're not just seeing a small incremental change. They're seeing a complete revolution in how assets are managed, just like the internet changed, well, everything. And this wasn't just talk. They were already putting their money where their mouth was. BlackRock had actually launched their BUIDL fund on the Ethereum blockchain way back in March of 2024. That move proved they were serious about this technology long before it became the big headline. At the same time, Nasdaq was making its own game-changing move. In September 2025, they went to the SEC with this pretty revolutionary idea. Hey, let's allow investors to trade shares of huge companies like Apple and Microsoft as tokens on a blockchain. And they weren't exactly subtle about it either. Nasdaq called this whole thing a top priority and said they planned to move as quickly as possible. The race to become a leader in this new tokenized world was officially on. But hey, this wasn't just a story about the old guard. The companies that were born in the digital crypto world, they saw the exact same opportunity, and they started moving in on Wall Street's territory. So let's look at two of the most important players from that side. Coinbase, the crypto exchange you've definitely heard of, and tZERO, a company that's been working on digital securities for years. Both of them made these really smart, strategic moves to bridge that gap between the crypto world and traditional stocks. Coinbase's plan in the summer of 2025 was super clear, a simple two-step. Step 1, get the green light from the regulators. Step 2, roll out tokenized stock trading to their millions and millions of US users. It was a direct play to bring their crypto-savvy customers right into the heart of traditional finance. And then there's tZERO. Their whole vision is bold, and you can boil it down to just 3 words: Wall Street on-chain. See, this isn't just about playing in the current system for them, it's about rebuilding the entire foundation of financial markets on the blockchain. And they've been methodically laying the groundwork to make this happen. They've launched their own dedicated blockchain, they hold the supercritical licenses from regulators like the SEC, and they even announced plans for an IPO to fund the whole build-out.
So let's just pause for a second. What's the really crucial thing to understand here? You've got Wall Street titans, crypto natives, and the very plumbing of the market all moving in the exact same direction. That tells you this is a permanent structural shift in how finance is going to work.
The renowned analyst Tom Lee, he just cut right through all the noise. He summed it up perfectly when he declared that the single most important story in finance for 2025 was, without a doubt, tokenization.
And that feeling was echoed from the very, very top. On December 4th, the SEC chairman himself, Paul Atkins, came out and said this technology will reshape capital markets. I mean, when the chief regulator says something that definitive, you know a massive change is already happening.
And that really brings us to the long-term view. Tom Lee also said that this isn't just a flash in the pan for 1 year. No, he predicted that the entire next decade would be defined by this one single trend.
Which leaves us all with one final, pretty powerful question. The pioneers are already racing ahead, the regulators have thrown the doors wide open, and the experts are all calling this the defining trend of our time. The only real question left is, are the markets truly ready for what comes next?